Before I get started, is there a spirit here that wants to communicate with me?
Here's Johnny!
Jack, knowing your name gives me power over you, so I condemn you back to retirement. Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
Pretty please, with sugar on top.
With the third entry in the main Conjuring universe coming out this weekend, I felt like it was a good time for me to revisit one of my favorite entries in the series, The Conjuring Part 2. Yes, I could have done The Conjuring 1, but I feel like that movie's been talked about extensively by a lot of people. And believe it or not, I actually prefer The Conjuring 2 over Conjuring 1 anyway. So I just wanted to review it and give it a little bit of attention that it normally wouldn't get. So The Conjuring 2, like the first movie, is directed by James Wan. The story takes place in 1977 as paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren attempt to help a family in London who are experiencing something evil in their house. But of course, things aren't quite what they seem.
No shit.
I'm just going to start this out by saying I don't think that James Wan gets enough credit. He basically initiated two separate trends in horror at different points in his career. If you think about it, Saw set off the torture porn phase of horror that dominated the early 2000s. And between Insidious and The Conjuring, he kind of redefined the demon possession subgenre in the late 2010s. When a director is able to set the tone for an entire genre of movies like that, you know he must be doing something right. Every movie that came out around these movies tried to replicate their success in their formula, and it just didn't work the same way. That being said, The Conjuring 2, personally, freaks me the hell out. Sure, the first Conjuring is more of a straightforward demon possession story, something akin to, say, The Exorcist, but I feel like in 2 he successfully introduced new ideas into the demon possession genre that I had never seen before. The whole idea of a demon using a spirit as a pawn in his little possession games is so unique and so terrifying to me. Which brings me to the big bad in this movie, and that is Dalek the Nun. This character has an absolutely brilliant design, and in my opinion should have been a modern horror icon that it never was. I think the Nun solo movie didn't really do the character any favors, but based solely on its appearance in this movie, it blew me away. The painting scene in this movie alone is enough to place this character in my nightmares permanently. Without a doubt, it's my favorite scene in this movie, and it's completely unsettling in every way. Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson as Lorraine and Ed Warren are so good in this movie. They have such good chemistry in this movie, and there's something very comforting about their presence in a movie like this. It's hard to explain, kind of, but they bring something to the movie that just balances everything out. I have to give props to the main little girl in this movie as well, played by Madison Wolfe. She pulls everything off in this movie, from the terrified little girl to the demonically possessed little girl, and she does it all effortlessly, and it's so believable.
Besides that, it's all in the reflexes.
I also think this movie has great atmosphere and tension, which is something that I say is missing in a lot of modern horror movies. The fact of the matter is you're never quite sure what's going to happen in this movie. They're always building to something, and it's done in an effective way. Even the jump scares, which can come off as cheap if they aren't handled in the right way, in this movie they're actually very well done because they're not obvious jump scares, if that makes sense. The best jump scare is the more unexpected jump scare, and they do that very well.
That makes sense.
I also admire the way that James Wan is able to take things like astral projection or clairvoyant or psychic abilities and make them believable. He makes those things seem like not cheesy plot devices when they very well could come off that way, because he grounds these crazy ideas in some form of reality, and that's just not easy to do. They also do some very unique camera work in this movie. There's one scene where Ed has his back to the little girl and he's hoping to communicate with the spirit through her. He does end up making contact with it, but what's really cool is that the little girl behind him is actually out of focus, and the deeper and deeper into this conversation they get, you can see her kind of transform into the spirit, even if it's slightly obscured. It's a very cool scene, and again, it's not something that I've seen many times before.
I like it a lot.
I love this movie, but I have to be honest, I did notice some logic gaps this time around. Maybe I've been watching too much CinemaSins or something, I don't know. But some of the characters are just painfully dense in this movie. Like when there's characters who don't believe the family, but they've been around and actually experienced weird shit that's been going on in this house that obviously can't be faked. It's also not really revealed why the demon would give Lorraine its name if that somehow gives her power over it. That comes off to me a little bit as plot armor, but I guess the idea was just they have to resolve this somehow, so that's what they did.
Sometimes men take matters into their own hands.
Overall, though, I think The Conjuring 2 is a solid and unique demon possession movie. It manages to introduce new ideas that set it apart from other movies that are like it. All the characters are likable, the villain is borderline iconic. A few logic gaps aside, but I think The Conjuring 2 is an enjoyable horror experience. That's why I'm going to give it the Pleased Palpatine. Good. So if you've seen The Conjuring 2, let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. As always, please like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, and I'll see you next time right here on Real Shift. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Y'all be cool. Nah.